I think there's actually a lot more going on than what we think with everything that you see happening in the world right now. And what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna break down what I think is really happening behind the scenes in a way that is empowering and also exciting, regardless of how much fear there is in the world right now. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now, what's really going on out there in the world? What's going on? There's so much fear. There's so much stuff going on. You watch the news, the media, you get blasts of fear. It's like a little machine gun of fear coming at you, and you got to sit there and absorb it and then figure out what to do with it. And I'm going to share with you my perspective of what's going on behind the scenes. Now, let me preface this and say that these are just my opinions. This is just my take on the energy of what is happening. This is not actually fact. I've been looking into this since about 2012 to many of the different energy dynamics on the world. And there's some stuff happening now that is really putting pressure on the collective, really putting pressure on many different people. And it's something that I've been aware of would eventually happen. I was hoping it didn't have to be something as dramatic as what's happening right now. However, this is just my opinion. This is just my perspective. I encourage you to do the research for yourself. Look into this with the perspective of figuring out the truth for you, and just see what really resonates with you with what I share with you right now. Just go within yourself and see what resonates. I'm not attached to it one way or the other. And yeah, I just kind of want to preface that because when I speak, sometimes people sometimes assume that I'm saying things as like cold hard fact, this is the way it is, and these are my perspectives. I've been into this, I'm passionate about this information, and I've drawn certain patterns, conclusions, and that's why I've come to these conclusions. Now, with all of that being said, what's really going on? Well, if you look into the world right now, what I believe is actually going on is there's going to continue to be a breakdown of old systems. And this is because right now what's happening on the planet, I have some books right over there. There's the books called The Law of One, or The Raw Materials. It talked about how this would eventually happen. There would eventually be a transition from what is called third density into fourth density. This is a physical transition. This is a change in energy that has been happening for a while now. Now, what this actually means and what this looks like is, first off, understanding that if you want more information on this, read those books, The Law of One. It talks about that in there's five different books. The husband is a physicist asking these questions. They're very deep questions. Can be considered a little bit of a dense book, a little bit of a harder read with some of the terminology, but nonetheless, it talks and those were done between 1980 and 1985, I believe, early 1980s. And a lot of the things in that book that said would eventually come true with physics would find, and these different things have happened. And it talked about how many people here on the planet right now are here because there is this change in consciousness happening. There's this shift in consciousness, what's called the Great Awakening. That is meant to happen in this life, and it's happening right now. We look around, we see all the fear of everything that's happening right now, and there's more going on than just what it looks like on the surface, and that's what I'll be talking about. But in general, third density to fourth density, what does that actually mean? The third density is duality. The third density is good, bad, light, dark. The third density, there's been a certain level of control here. There's been a certain level of control on the planet for thousands of years. And this control, in a way, has kept people within a certain box, within a certain mentality, not knowing who they really are. And that's something that is changing right now on the planet. That structure is falling apart. Now, that's part of it. Separation and third density, we tend to feel very separated from other people. We tend to really emphasize, this is me, that is you, that is your boundary, this is my boundary, don't walk on my turf. That is the kind of mentality that has been a very strong part of 3D for a while now. And then autopilot. Many people are just completely on autopilot. They're living the same days every single day, thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, doing the same things, therefore getting the same results. A lot of people just blindly believing everything that they're told, and that autopilot response is a very strong dynamic of third density. And what we have is the fourth density. Now, fourth density is more about understanding that we are all connected. There's a collective consciousness that connects us. It's more about vibration, understanding energy. Time appears to go by faster because we've increased our vibration. And maybe you've noticed that. Just see if you notice that in your own life, that these last couple of years, at least especially, time goes by super, super fast. Well, time doesn't really exist the way that we think it does. As our vibration increases, our perception of time appears to go by quicker. Now, there's a more awareness here generally. We're more aware of certain things, more aware of how our beliefs or our thoughts correlate with what we experience. And here we have more choice, because here we're in autopilot, so we're choosing based on autopilot, whereas here we have more choice. So this shift in vibration, what is happening is this fourth density energy is here, and anything right now that is of the old third density structure is beginning to literally crumble and fall apart. That is what is happening right now. Now, when we look at this, what does this look like actually in the world? Now, here's the important thing to understand. This is also happening in the world, as collectively, this is also happening individually. So when we talk about the old systems are breaking down, this is both from the perspective of the collective, because the old power dynamic is breaking down, and then also the individual systems are breaking down, the belief systems are breaking down. So right now, a lot of people are limited to staying at their house, not allowed to leave. And what that is doing is that is having an effect where more people are looking inwards. That is having an effect where the old things that used to work maybe aren't working anymore. Literally, people that maybe used to distract themselves with that of sports and all these other things, it's not as easily able to do that because sports aren't on anymore. It's requiring people, this pressure is requiring people to go within. This is part of the Great Awakening. This is a part of what is happening on the planet right now. Now, collectively, what this is looking like, now this is just my opinion, this is just my perspective. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think that when you look at the information and you do your own research, you eventually come to certain patterns and certain things. When I look at this information, there's some things that resonate with me, there's some things that don't resonate with me, and what I do is I pick things that I believe do, that are consistent to other patterns and other research I have done. So with that being said, what I think is happening right now is there's a certain number of people that have had an abuse of power in the world, and what I believe is happening is these people, that power is getting taken away from them. And what we think, yes, there's still this thing happening in the world, this pandemic. However, I think that in certain ways, I think that we still need to be careful. We still need to wash our hands. We still need to go, we need to be aware of where we're putting our energy. We need to be aware of who we're interacting with, all of that stuff. However, I believe that as well, tandem with that, there is a withdrawing of people that have had a lot of power that don't necessarily deserve it anymore, haven't deserved it, but have used it for bad purposes, but literally their old world is falling apart and crumbling before them. So I think that that's part of a side effect of what is happening right now. And I think that we'll find that over the next year, this is something that comes more and more into the light. I'm not sure if it will come into the news. I don't know if you guys know this, many of you, but the news is owned by there's 6 major corporations that own almost all the news. So whether it's Republican or Democrat, they're owned by similar corporations that are fueling the duality in the world, that gets you triggered and putting energy into the system. And there's actually a lot more going on behind the scenes with that. Now, what I believe will happen is as well, the old system of the media, I believe, will begin to completely have a turnover. The media has been very controlled. It has been something that promotes fear. 99.9% of what you've ever seen on the media is going to be completely fearful. And I think that there's going to begin to switch over. I think that eventually we'll actually see news. We'll actually see news of what's happening in the world, not just the perspectives that are necessarily intended for people to be in fear and to be doing and taking certain types of actions. So that is part of it. The old systems are breaking down, both collectively and individual. The part that's important to understand here too is the individual part. It's easy to look out into the world and to see these changes, but what belief system is falling apart? What belief system doesn't work anymore that maybe is based on separation? You did this to me, and they should have done this. Control, trying to control other people, trying to control the outcome of things. Duality, that of the polarization in your life. But pay attention to all of these, because as we individually go through this shift right here, it'll also help the collective, because we're all connected. The power dynamic that I'm talking about, where there's a certain number of elite people that have been using that power in disingenuous ways, what they've known is that there's a collective consciousness, and if you're able to control the narrative of a mass amount of people, then you control the energy dynamics, and you're able to then have it to where there's such a power dynamic difference. And that's something that's beginning to crumble, literally crumble. And there's a lot more that I wish I could say from making this video, but I want to give it in little pieces, because otherwise it just sounds a little bit too far out there. And my goal with this is to share it in a way that's practical, easy to understand, and also positive. I believe that this is one of the most exciting times to ever be alive, ever, regardless of the fact that there's all this fear going out in the world. Understand that I'll share with this in a minute, but understand that it's triggering a spiritual awakening. Talk a little bit about it now, actually. I write this down yesterday. Triggering a spiritual awakening. As I was writing this down, before I went to bed last night, let me move this over a tad. Before I went to bed last night, I had an Eckhart Tolle thing on the background. As I was writing down this triggering spiritual awakening, he says, I've never seen someone go through an awakening in their comfort zone. Think about that. You do not go through a spiritual awakening in your comfort zone. And when I heard that, I was writing this down, and I was like, that is so relevant to what this point is. Triggering spiritual awakening, it is pushing people beyond their comfort zones and is having them look within themselves and to go beyond the 3D physical avatar structure. Identification with the body, identification with this is just who I am. And people are now starting to go through mass amount of awakenings. They're starting to realize more of who they are as eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. So we may be pushed out of that comfort zone to continue to wake up more and more. Now, the other part of this is a financial currency. Financial currency, I believe, will continue to break down. Once again, when I talk about the media being owned by one of the 6 major corporations, there's evidence for that. That's not something that is just conspiracy theory. That is just how it is. That is just, there's 6 major corporations that own that. When you talk about financial currency, is it a conspiracy theory that that money is not backed by gold? Money hasn't been backed by gold since the 1980s. And the bank systems are private corporate, they're not, the government doesn't own them, they're private corporations. So when we look at this, what you'll find is that of the old 3D system, third density we could call it, the financial currency was based more so on, was more so about control. It was more so not backed by gold. What I believe will happen over the next few years is it will revert back to a gold standard or some type of legitimate way of understanding that system. I believe that a lot's going to happen over the next couple of years. That's part of it as well. Also, individual. What does this mean for the individual? The new energy is supporting things that add value to people in a genuine way. If there is not pure intention and pure integrity, I believe that things just won't work for that. I believe that it'll be also very transparent to people that are buying from whatever the product is or whatever, if that is the case. So it needs to be more win-win scenario, understanding that we're all connected. So what you put out is what you get back. That's another part there as well. Now, what is happening is this power dynamic change is about a lot of things getting brought into the limelight. It's going to be, I think it will be a little bit shocking, some of the things and some of the things that have been going on behind the scenes for decades of this power structure. And as we see it break down, some people may go in fear, but understand, I believe that this is, just do the research. It's what Law of One talks about, Dolores Cannon talks about it, Bashar talks about it. This is the most exciting time to ever be alive, ever on the planet. And I believe that. And I believe that as these old power structures fall apart, we will be getting more of the power back. And we will then be able to put the energy in the direction of what we want. And we'll truly then be living in a time of awakening. And this great awakening has many different dynamics to it. It has a shift in understanding financial currency. Currency is energy, by the way. But a shift in that energy, a shift in the old systems breaking down, the old power dynamics breaking down, where there was disingenuine type way of people going about things. Their power's literally being taken from them. And I believe that this is a time of very powerful awakening on the planet. I'm super excited to be alive right now. I'm super excited to be here with you. I have another video that's on the hidden manifestation tricks, that's kind of about this elite, like some of the things that some people on the planet know that may use in a negative way. I'll go ahead and link that video below. It came out recently and I've got great feedback from it, so go ahead and check that out. Other than that, subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you liked it. I've got a lot more cool videos coming. I'm excited to be sharing these ideas with you guys and helping you know that there really is nothing to fear. It is more about you going within and understanding that this is a powerful time of transition. So as always, peace, much love, and namaste.